Hello, everybody, and welcome to Taking Control, the ADHD podcast on True Story FM. I'm Pete Wright, and I'm here with Nikki Kinzer.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Pete Wright.
Oh, hi. Hi, it's you. And we're going to make a podcast. And
yes, we are.
We are continuing. I don't know. I guess we've been talking about productivity and capacity and those kinds of things. We're kind of continuing that conversation, and I think this is a good one. This is a good one for you because you're someone whose career is about providing guidance to help other people do stuff in a new way. And
when
what
happens
when they're tired and they just stop listening to you?
Yeah.
Because
exactly.
I know what it feels like to be real tired and to get just, you just get cranky when people tell you how to do stuff. I don't care for it. So let's talk about what that means. Before we get into the show, we want to tell you about Patreon. Our Patreon community is fantastic. Members of our Patreon community get, early access, ad-free access to every episode. The Patreon versions of the show, and I want to just say we had a question in the live stream from last week that came in late that I did not hear. Or I did not see, and we haven't responded to it. But the question was, where do I listen to the bonus after show? Well, you just listen. If you're a member, the version that comes out to our patrons is the version that contains the pre-show and the post-show. It's all in one. So you just, as members, you get to listen to that version that comes out in the secret Discord channels. There's no special place. It just comes directly to you. And you get to listen to it there. Even if you are a member, you get to join us for that live stream, and you can participate in the post-show chit chat. And we'd love to have you there too. So, come ask questions, get access to the special channels. All of those good things happen when you are a member of the Patreon at patreon.com/the ADHD podcast. But really, the biggest benefit that you get for becoming a member is access to the people. The people in this community are incredible. They are real people. They are living with ADHD, and they show up for each other every day, whether it's in accountability chat rooms, whether it's in body doubling sessions, whether it's just in support when life gets hard with ADHD. If you've ever wanted to be more than just a listener, this is where it happens. Again, patreon.com/the ADHD podcast to learn more. And if you're not ready for that, that's fine too. Just visit takecontroladhd.com to connect with us on socials, join the Discord, sign up for the weekly email newsletter. We'd love to have you no matter where you decide to land. All right, Nikki, why does advice stop working when you're tired?
Exactly what you said earlier in the intro. You're cranky.
Yeah.
Like you don't want to be told what to do. And I mean, obviously our job, as podcasters, as coaches, as leaders in the ADHD community or whatever you want to call it, we're not here to tell people what to do. No. Like that's not what we're here to do. And when you're offering advice or guidance, it's always with that intention of, trying to help the person, but also helping them figure out what works for them because it's different for everybody. It's not a one size fits all.
Right.
When we talk about ADHD strategies and things like that. But I think what's important too is to understand that this isn't about just being lazy or being unmotivated. It's not a character flaw. It is part of your ADHD that needs recovery. So by the time you've gotten to that part, that time of day or time of week or whatever it may be, you've worked really hard. Your brain has worked really hard and it needs to recover. And I think that people forget that that's not optional, where they think it is optional. And that for some reason, they don't need to be the ones that need to rest.
Yeah.
Right.
And I just want to add in here because I don't want people to mistake this conversation about being able to take ADHD advice or advice about living with ADHD. We're talking about being able to listen to the world around you and take any advice and internalize it. This is a conversation about what happens when your brain and body are fatigued and you become a raw nerve in the universe. That's what we're talking about.
Right, right. Because most people will tell you that they know what to do.
Yeah.
Most people will say, I've heard that before. Like a lot of the things that we talk about every single week is not necessarily new information. Right. So it is definitely, it's when you have reached that point where you're just, I can't make myself do anything. I'm just tired. I'm exhausted.
Right.
And instead of thinking, though, I must be tired, the thought becomes something is wrong with me. I'm doing something wrong. And that's what, my point is you're not doing anything wrong. What you need is that recovery time, and people just don't account for that. And, I want to reference one of our shows that we did before, because I think it's a good one to put in the show notes, and that's the opportunity cost. Because we do talk about that a lot in that show, where we're talking about when you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else, and there's a cost. There's always a cost. Because we're not putting in the recovery time in our schedules, then we're always going back to back, and we're trying to run like little energy bunnies, that just isn't. You remember that commercial with the little energy
Energizer bunny?
Yeah,
I like the idea of the energy bunny as a sort of
the energy bunny
mascot for ADHD.
And the brain's not built that way. But this is the thing too, is I think that a lot of people fall into that trap of, oh, this is about willpower.
Yeah.
I will logic my way into capacity, which we've talked about, right?
Mm-hmm.
We talked about capacity with Brooke, that you just don't have. But again, there's still this belief that we feel like we should have this all the time consistently. And I can tell you, nobody has this. Neurotypicals do not have this. ADHDers do not have this.
Yeah.
We all get tired.
Everybody gets tired.
We all hit a capacity. We have a capacity that gets filled.
Here is an interesting thing. Can I take you to the research?
I would love you to take us to the research.
So there is there's a journal piece. This was a paper that was written by the wonderful Rogers, Dittner, Rhymes, and Chalder. They write
that a lot.
They write bangers in the ADHD research lit. The title of their paper is "Fatigue in an Adult Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder Population." That's the part I can't say multiple times fast. You
could say fatigue in an ADHD disorder population and people would get it.
That's not what it says, though.
I know.
I'm true to the words. Okay.
You are true to the word.
So what they wanted to look at was, because you say, everybody gets tired. Everybody gets tired. But to what degree does this impact ADHDers differently? And it turns out the results of their research suggest that the ADHD group were significantly more fatigued than the healthy group, with 62% of them meeting the criteria for fatigue caseness, for chronic fatigue syndrome. Wow. ADHD symptoms were significantly greater in the chronic fatigue group than in the healthy group. ADHD and chronic fatigue groups did not differ significantly on measures of functional impairment, mood, and self-efficacy. 62% of the folks in this group tested positive, right, correlationally, for chronic fatigue syndrome. That's something. So everybody gets tired, but the ADHD population gets tired in a different and vastly more significant way.
Absolutely.
That's what we have to keep in mind. It's nuts.
Yes. That is, we need to just sit on that for a second, because that is crazy. Well, and I think that to your point, when we talk about what ADHD, what's happening when you have ADHD, it's those executive functions, right?
Yes.
that are not working. And when you hear advice, whether it is ADHD specific or not, most productivity advice assumes that those executive functions are working and that they're available at their full strength, right? But so it assumes that you can pause and you can prioritize and you know when to take a breath and you know when to step back and you can remember things and you can switch tasks easily. And, but all of these things we know are hard for the ADHDer anyway. And then you put on top of being tired and they get worse.
Yeah.
It gets harder. The more tired you are, the harder your work gets.
And this is another one of those, like we've talked about metacognitive performance before, and this is one of those meta skills or these meta awarenesses for me that just reading some of these papers this morning, right? This one was related to the impairments of sleep loss on core executive functions, and we know that the executive functions go down. In the context of our conversation about being able to take advice or guidance or direction or just listening to others, what we have to remember is with ADHD, it's hard to do the task. With ADHD and fatigue, it's hard to even listen to guidance about doing the task. You aren't even able to cross the transom from learning how to do a thing to being able to try the thing. You can't even get there. And I think that's the piece that it has me just sort of stepping back and relating a little bit to the experience of what it means to be, we've talked about burnout, but to be at a task level compromised. I wrote this line down that it sticks with me. Fatigue distorts reality. Right? On a really good day, an email is just an email. But when you are depleted, when you are fatigued, an email is a moral referendum, right? Fatigue distorts reality. Everything is dizzy when you're fatigued. So here's another one. Shaw, Stringaris, Nigg, and Liebenluft did a study on emotional dysregulation, said it's obviously common with ADHD. This was the number that I thought was mildly questionable and gave me a holy crap moment. It appears in 30 to 70% of adults with ADHD. What the hell kind of stat is that? Like almost all or just a few? Like 3 out of 10 is substantively different than 7 out of 10. And so that statistic has me looking a little bit sideways. But when we're talking about emotional dysregulation.
Oh, and they're saying 30 to, oh gosh, 30% I could tell you
or 70%. This is why I'm saying like, I don't need a statistic to tell me what I feel in my bones. Right.
Right.
I
when
already
you're tired.
know it. Yeah. I just think I thought that statistic was really funny. Like
it's a little ironic.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So anyway, right. And that leads us to this sort of point of self-awareness and not being able to see because reality is distorted.
I love that. Yeah. The fatigue distorts your reality. Yes. So your self-awareness is going to go because you lose the ability to really see any patterns or insights, when your accommodations, the things that you've put in place, you stop noticing, right? The check-ins, the alarms, all of those things, stop. You don't see them or hear them anymore. And then I think flexibility too, like that is already hard when something changes in your day and you have to pivot. But when you're tired, and you have to pivot, like it could be it will feel like it's the worst thing ever, right? Like it may not, a different day when you had a good night's sleep, it may not feel as bad, but today it feels like it's the worst thing. Unrealistic expectations are one of those things that are already happening on a good day.
Yeah, right.
And then you get tired. And again, it just makes it worse because you believe in all of your heart that you should be able to push through, that that you can spend the little energy that you have left fighting yourself instead of recovering. You believe that every day, even though every day you're wrong.
Yeah.
It's not true. It's just not true. I think it's interesting too, the guilt loop. I have to talk about guilt because I see this in clients all the time. They feel guilty to rest. They don't feel like they've done enough. They feel like I need to be doing more. And what's interesting is that guilt is also taking energy and it's actually making you feel even more tired. And Brooke talked about this a little bit in that spiral in our last episode. So definitely, go back and take a listen to that. But I think that's really interesting that we feel that guilt. And then we have to look at the many people who spend Sunday dreading Monday instead of actually using Sunday as a rest day.
Yeah. Yeah. It leads to one of the most important takeaways, and for me, which gets to this experience of having to rewire around recovery, because my assumption and my attentive challenges all drive me toward the next productive thing I could be doing. And I don't think ever in my life sat down and thought, I need to time block my rest. Right. There was a time, where I was really active about building my ideal calendar, and I still have it. Like the ideal calendar, I can turn it on in my calendar, and it will tell me the when I should be, when I'm planning sleep and carpools and breakfast. I mean, I did the hyper scheduling thing just to see when I'm feeling my best, what does my schedule look like, and that helped me work towards sprints and all that stuff. But it was like rest was always, I'll be sleeping at these hours. It was never proactively, I should work a recovery period into every major activity that I take that's going to be sort of cognitively draining. And I guess I sort of do that now with my scheduling calendar. If someone tries to book an hour-long recording, I have it set so you can't, I have to take 15 minutes between sessions. But that's not quite it. That's not a disconnect, right? That's a chance to go to the bathroom.
That's a transition.
Yeah,
you built in a transition,
right?
But you haven't built in the recovery, because if let's say that you did let's just say you did one podcast and it was really intense, and then you have another podcast that you have to do right after that, you're not giving yourself enough recovery, right? And we don't know that though until you're in it, right? Like you may not know that. Yeah.
Well, and that's why I think this becomes a challenge to productivity, like hot take culture, hustle culture, which is like, if you're going to rest, it's because you worked real hard constantly and now you're going to Cabo, right? Now you're taking a vacation. Like it's a prize, like it's a treat you've earned. And that's the rewiring part. For us with the ADHD brains, the only way I'm going to get the next thing done is if I rest a little bit in order to recover from the last thing.
And that's not what it is. It's not a reward.
Yeah. It's part of the job.
It's part of the work. It's part of what your brain needs to do.
No one ever taught me that in college, right?
No one talks about it even now. I mean, like we talk about buffer time and transition time, but the recovery time, I mean, as I referenced this back in that opportunity cost, like it is not something that we talk a lot about, but it makes such sense when we think about when we are really doing those intense tasks. There's a hangover. You used that word before. And I think that that's really an important way to that's what it feels like. You're tired. You also, I noticed this just the other day. I did a webinar, and after the webinar was over, I was like, okay, I need to shut down, and social battery low, if not like completely out of charge. And I need the rest of the night to, I can't do anything after that. Like I need the rest of the night just to rest. And I don't have ADHD. So if you think of somebody that, has to be on, and you're like that, you have to be on in your podcast all day long. How much recovery time do you give yourself, Pete?
Yeah, no, I don't even know. Right.
Yeah.
Because I don't track it that way.
Right.
Like this is one of the things that I'm really been like latching onto as I read your notes going into this session. You had written, rest isn't the opposite of productivity. For ADHD brains, it is a condition for it. I'll bet this is the first time anybody's ever heard that listening to this show.
Right.
It's definitely the first time that I have ever considered it that way. Right?
Yeah.
I don't know how I would get, I feel like this is why we go through the day feeling like we're working in a deficit all the time.
Sleep.
Well, yeah, but
not even sleep.
Not always
but
sleep, right?
It's not always sleep. I think that's a good place to start. I mean, because I think that there are so many issues around sleep. So I think it's a good place to start. But I think, yes, and I think this is where you were going. It's not just that, it's the rest. How do I shut my brain down? Or what do I do in the evening or morning or whatever that quiets the noise?
Yeah. Yeah. Now, you may not be surprised to hear that I have some more. I found another journal piece from Sabine Sonnentag and Charlotte Fritz, who have a great discussion of the recovery experience and, how people wind down from work in order to be productive when they are at work. And what it confirms is it's actually not like sleep is a foundational part of it, but not a large part of it. The most important thing to be able to do when you're in recovery mode is not think about work, right? Not think about the thing you're recovering from. It is changing gears. Like you're an expert at it already. When you're done with your day, you'll do a puzzle, right? That is a great way to recover. You're not asleep, but your brain is doing something fundamentally different than it's doing all day. And it turns out the brain is kind of musical chairs, right? You thinking about different things is developing the recovery muscle. And so reading a book, watching a film, doing art, doing something, taking a long walk, forest bathing. That's a thing. I'll bet you do a lot.
Take a bath in the forest?
Yeah, you bathe in the forest. Oxygen, it's hyperoxygenated. The light is really good for you. If you really want to exercise that beatnik muscle, you take all your clothes off and walk through the forest naked,
and
like
you
a real
all
bohemian.
of a sudden are on that reality TV show, Naked
Alone.
in the Woods. Alone in the Woods.
You're alone, you realize there's a bear. Yeah. Who knew that recovery is actually running from a bear? Yeah. Yeah. So that's the trick. Like I think one of the greatest muscles and the hardest thing for us to do when we've been living in a state of ADHD, right? Of living with our ADHD for so long, feeling the shame of not being able to get enough done at the same time, internalizing the experience of feeling like we can't get things done as efficiently as our peers doing the same thing. Now to tell us that the only way I'm going to get better at doing those specific things is if I stop thinking about it for a little while, forget it, right? That is so hard. I just want to acknowledge that. Like that is crazy to assume. And yet we have to be able to carry both of these ideas in our heads at the same time.
We have to be open to it. Yeah. We have to be open to it. Right. Because really, at the end of the day, the takeaway here is that rest and recovery are not things for you to feel guilty about. It's how your brain gets back online. And if you are noticing the fatigue, if you're noticing that your traditional go-tos are not working, you've got to check in with yourself. How are you feeling? What's going on? And shift that a little bit from I need to do more to, okay, well, maybe I need to take a little bit of time to just rest.
This has made me think and maybe recontextualize a little bit some of our past episodes, our past conversations, things like I don't wanna, right? Like I don't wanna is a core response to taking advice that you're not ready to take yet, right? And so that's a similar thing. If I have a project coming up and I say to myself, I don't want to do that. I don't want to think about that. Or the person who's involved in that is making me mad. I don't want to do it for them. I think you're right. I got to check my capacity before I question the veracity of that feeling, because I may be burnout and tired. And the last person I want to listen to about that is myself and my own interpretation of whether I'm tired. I'm not tired. You can't tell me I'm tired. The cognitive dissonance is rich in this area.
Oh, yes.
But I think we have to talk about it, right? We have to acknowledge.
We have to talk about it.
This is possible. All right.
Absolutely.
Is that it? I mean,
Great job, Pete,
did
right?
we solve it? We may have solved it.
No.
You're welcome, everybody.
Yeah, I don't. There's our 2 cents. Go
Yep.
You know,
rub those together
rest.
And do a task.
Yeah. And do a puzzle at the end of the day.
Thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us for this podcast today. We sure appreciate your time and your attention. Don't forget, if you have something to contribute, and I have a feeling you might, we're about to head over to the Show Talk channel in the Discord server, and you can join us in that secret channel right over there by becoming a supporting member at the deluxe level or better at patreon.com/the ADHD podcast. On behalf of Nikki Kinzer, I'm Pete Wright. We'll see you right back here next week on Taking Control, the ADHD podcast.